up and like my phone hasn't been recording for I don't know how long, and I'm just like,
Yeah, yeah, I hate it. Um, but so one of the things that I would that I kind of I know it's hard to do because you've been living your life for as long as you've been alive. Safe to say, and but when you one of the mental things to get over is that you got to think of yourself as a bilingual person, right? So,
mhm.
are you if you're saying like I need to like take an hour out of my day and force myself to go on a run or to go to the gym or sit down and focus on Spanish, then that's like kind of hard to do. It's really easy to get off of that routine or whatever. But if you make it a part of your life, then it's much more seamless, and then you're not always guilt ridden. And I think that that's the biggest hurdle that you can help eliminate is that you're not making yourself feel guilty for failing. If you have Spanish subtitles on all your screens, or like you change one of your devices over to Spanish, or you are listening to like Spanish podcasts, like, and you enjoy it, and you're not forcing yourself to, if you're forcing yourself to, then it's the same kind of thing where you're like, screw this, I'm just gonna listen
Like
to my normal podcast that I enjoy, and then you feel guilty again. You know what I mean?
mhm.
So if you set yourself up for in ways that you can fail, and then you fail it, then you're gonna feel that feeling. And
Right.
and if you set yourself up for ways that you can't fail, and you just practice it seamlessly, and for me, when I was studying French, that really helped when I just changed my all my Apple devices over to French. You know,
Okay.
and so my iPad and my iPod Touch that I used a lot for school for like dictionaries and whatever. Those were all in French, and then every day I was practicing French whether I liked it or not.
Mhm.
Which I liked it, and then like I would just reading this stuff on the screen made me want to just practice French. You
Mhm.
know, even if it was just like system stuff or like what the apps are called, or
Mhm.
I'd see the stock market app that can't comes on the Apple devices, and it would be in French, and I'd be like, huh, I should really look at some stocks today, even though I wasn't investing at all. I was like, it's an adult thing to do. So that kind of stuff, are you doing any of that where you're like setting
Well,
yourself up?
I want to do the sticky note thing around the house with like starting to use more of the conjugations to where like maybe I put by the door like we go to the store, we go to
Yeah.
we went to the park, so I can start figuring out how to use the different tenses too, and getting those kind of like set to my memory to where I'm not like, let's see, because right now I'm when I'm doing the drills, I'm trying to use the formulas, which I'm really bad at remembering.
Yeah.
There's just so many of them right away, and I'm like IR to ooh, and then remembering that if it's talking about we, then it's MOS at the end
Yeah.
usually.
That's why the starter phrases are good, like what you're talking about, where if you have starter phrases, and these aren't exactly starter phrases, but they're little example phrases that you can get stuck in your head because you're using it.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
And then
vamos
I
a.
try to like say, I've been trying to say more Spanish. So like if I'm going to ask Mike if he wants more tea, I'll try to ask him in Spanish. ¿Qué
Yeah.
quieres?
And have that phrase like in your kitchen.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, exactly. And then
Yeah.
it's a has you can associate it with real life.
Mm-hmm.
And
And
that
I'll see it all the time.
yeah.
So
Then
until I can say some of those things, pretty confidently. That's where I lack is my confidence in what I'm saying, you know. I might know it, but then I'm like, wait, is that right? Like
Yeah.
Mike's new band music person he's been hanging out with speaks some Spanish, and he started speaking Spanish to me, and I was like, I'm like, shit. And I don't say it enough to where I'm like, yeah, this is what I'm saying, you know?
Yeah.
So I want to start getting to that point with some of these everyday phrases, at least.
That'd be great. And just
Just
be
start
like,
with,
have little ones that you know you're gonna say all the time, like what when you're asking Mike if he wants tea, and you just write a little phrase on your fridge, "Quieres más té?" You know, and then you have that quieres, and you have the example of the conjugation there, and then or you can have another option of the conjugation underneath it, like
yeah.
"Querías más té?" And then that's a little bit more soft and polite, or you can be like ¿qué quieres? Like, what do you want?
¿Qué quieres? Yeah, that's usually what I, ¿qué quieres té? You want?
Yeah, what kind of tea do
And
you
he's
want?
just like, huh?
Yeah. And is Mike trying to learn some Spanish too, or is he?
He knows a little bit just from being in the army, but not really. He's just kind of going along with me
Yeah,
speaking to
but
him.
he's being supportive of you.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Hmm.
He wants me to learn, well, we want to learn Norwegian together eventually.
Yeah.
You know, Somi, but it's not quite the same as Norwegian. And
Yeah.
I'm like, I just don't know if I can learn two at one time.
I I wouldn't because they're um you're going to get rules mixed up.
Hmm.
And you probably won't get vocab mixed up, but you might get rules mixed up just because they're not really related to each other, like at all, really. I mean, you could argue a Proto-European language or whatever, but it's a Teutonic language, and but they do have still like article rules and just certain like pronunciation rules that I think that you might accidentally mix up. So I would just want to do
Yeah.
one language until you have it down pretty well, and then you can move.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah. But
so
did you want to try to record anything
oh, I've
today?
been
Or
recording
okay.
since
That's
we
fine.
started talking about the language stuff.
Okay, cool.
Yeah,
Yeah.
not before that. So
Um, did we need to redo the the one we did last time with no sound?
oh, I mean, either way, it doesn't. We can look at the chart a little bit here, the conjugation chart. Let me share my screen with you and see if my Chrome OS is gonna be able to do all this stuff. Even though my battery is full, I plugged it in because I was like thinking it's gonna need a little bit more juice to do all this. I didn't have it plugged in last time, and it was like lagging,
Uh,
and then it was pixelating pretty bad. Um, so when you go on the conjugation tab, one thing that can be really useful is that remember if you just have like some time that you just want to sit down and practice some Spanish,
mhm.
whatever verb that you look up, you have the practice test down here for that
Yep.
verb.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've been liking those.
Oh yeah, you've been trying those out.
I've done a couple of them, just
Yeah.
yeah, just a couple since I didn't get too much this week. But
Okay. And then if you want to do it on random verbs, just at the main conjugation tab is for random verbs. I would never recommend because I tried it out doing all verbs, and you get the most obscure, useless verbs ever. And so the ones that they say most common verbs, that's definitely the one you want to do. And
okay.
then you can make your own vocab list, and you can quiz yourself on your own custom list if you want.
Ooh, that's kind of neat.
Yeah, but I use this for all my students, so it doesn't really work when I try to make my own list because then like every student wants a different set of words, and so
Right.
um,
I'll
and
probably go in and make my list with those top ones that we picked out the other day.
Yeah, from the Gemglish. Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yeah, Gemglish is really useful. If we go share this one. Go on the big words first. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah,
Because I
that's
think we got to Ablar, and so I want to focus on those top two rows
yeah.
and
Good.
get really good at those.
And remember the ones that are most common are the most irregular.
Okay.
Were there any things in specific that you wanted to go over on the grammar?
Um, I feel bad. I just didn't get very far this week.
Oh, don't feel bad. Don't feel bad. We want to eliminate that feeling of guilt, right?
Yeah, if we could go over. So I struggle a little bit with the conjugations with the rules, just because when I was doing those harder lessons, like they explain them, but they were explaining so many different ones to me. Like IR verbs change to this or that, and I'm having trouble like really remembering what
So
changes to what.
let's simplify it, okay? Because what this does, what this website does, is it tells you everything, right?
Hmm.
So what I like to do is I like to make a hierarchy of importance, right? So if I told you all of the rules for any specific grammar lesson, the rule list pretty big, and it's just a lot of things to just like memorize. And but if you can remember a handful of things, maybe two or at the most three things per
Hmm.
category, it makes it way more digestible, okay? So let's think about it in terms of this. There are three kinds, like types of verbs, right?
Hmm.
What are the three types of verbs?
Past, present, and future.
No,
No.
those are tenses, right? But types of verbs in Spanish are
Oh,
ar,
IR,
yeah, and what
AR,
else?
IR,
Yeah,
ER.
good. And most people put them in this order, but it really doesn't matter, right? Ar, ir. Now, when it comes to patterns of conjugation, what I like to think of it as is that the E and the I are the only two vowels in the English word friend, right? And they are the
Hmm.
friendliest letters in the whole alphabet. Okay?
Okay.
So they like to copy each other because they're such good friends, right? So ER and IR verbs kind of follow the same patterns.
Okay.
Okay? So when you look at verb conjugation patterns, AR verbs and IR verbs are gonna follow those two suits. Okay?
Okay.
So let's look at it really quick. We have AR verbs and you have O. Let's look at the ending again. Is that basically you can split a verb into two parts: the ending, AR, ER, IR endings. The rest of it, anything that's left after that, is called the root, right?
Okay.
Or stem. Some people call it stem. And so you're really essentially just taking off the ending and replacing it with the proper ending. Okay,
Hmm.
so it goes in the AR verb pattern: o, as, a, amos, an. Right? And now let's take a ER verb. Like, what's a good ER verb to use? That's not irregular.
Poner.
Poner, okay. It is a little bit irregular, but poner is a common one. It's not, I mean, it's really hard to find. It's really hard to think of off the top of your head IR verbs that aren't irregular. They're more irregular. AR verbs, less irregular. IR verbs, more irregular. Okay?
Okay.
And that goes, see, all the irregularities are in red.
Hmm.
So this one only irregular on the yo form. Bongo. And notice that the AR verbs go as, a, amos, on, right? But this one, ER verb, es, pones, pone, ponemos, ponen.
So it's an E instead of an A.
Yeah, and that's kind of the theme, right? And then
Okay.
on the preterite, the theme is mostly you're going to put an I in there. You want an I in almost all of them, right? This one, obviously not, right? But then you have pusiste, puso, pusimos, pusieron, right?
Okay, so AR verbs usually go to, they have the O, A, amos, and
Yeah,
then
you're
the
gonna.
ER verb, it looks like it's using an E.
I like to think of it as an A theme,
Okay,
right? And then the ER, IR verbs are an E theme,
okay, that's
right?
helpful.
Yeah. And that's kind of like the general theme of it,
Hmm.
right? And then it's a lot easier for a go-to. It's like, oh, this is an AR verb, so I'm going to do a theme, right? This is an ER, IR verb. I'm going to do an ER, I theme, right? So
Yeah,
obviously, like the present tense is more E's, and the preterite is more I's. But like this is irregular on a normal, not irregular.
sorry.
um, yeah. Um, then
Takes you
the
back.
third person singular is gonna have an I there before it. Like, let's use this word subir. I like subir. Subir is a normal, not as irregular. Like, look at that. None of them are irregular. Okay,
Right.
and see all the I's in this one. Subi,
Hmm.
subiste, subió, subimos, subieron. Right. So you have an I in every single one of them. This is a pretty normal IR verb. Better example than the poner, maybe. But poner is good because it's a really common verb, right? So it's good to know that one. We never not want to know poner. Right?
Just what I've been using.
Yeah. So this one you can see like the theme is no matter if it's a AR verb, IR verb, ER verb, you're gonna have the O there, right?
Hmm.
There, though, not in the rest of it.
Hmm.
And then some of them, well, let's not get too far into the patterns, but I just want you to notice these patterns, and that's the first pattern you should notice: is that AR verbs follow a theme, IR verbs follow like an E or I theme, right?
Okay.
And
Yeah,
they
that's
follow suit. IR verbs follow suit together in a lot of things. So we'll see some more examples of that later.